Now, you've spoken or been hired to speak for Microsoft and Nissan and Hollander. What are some of the things that people tell you either that they're looking for or that they took away from your presentations?
Well, a lot of times I think people have a good time. They actually laugh. Work is a funny thing, and sometimes people write business books that are so boring, and they tell you have an exciting job, and they're written in a boring way. And so my background, I love to make people laugh, and I love, Chris Rock, the comedian, said there's some things people won't listen to unless they're laughing at the same time. So I use a lot of humor to say, hey, let's talk about these things. Like, here's what's working about work. Here's what's not working about work. Here's how we get better. If you're 23 and you just got to a job, don't you dare go, I'm an expert. I've been out of college for an hour. Where's my dream job? So I can use humor to say to a graduating class or to say to a young group of millennials working at a company, your first job won't be your dream job. You don't even know how to work yet. Your first job's job is to teach you how to have a job. Like, you just went from 3 months off to 8 days off a year. That's a transition. Let's talk about that. So I think a lot of times when I speak at big companies, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Nissan, there's a lot of people that will say, wow, I didn't expect to laugh as much as that, and I didn't expect to learn like that. And so my approach is to have fun with it. I've been at those, I worked for corporate America for 15 years, and some people use that as a negative term. I think it's a great term. And I remember going to see speakers, and they were boring, and they seemed depressed, or they told a speech that didn't seem like it was fit to my audience. You could tell you had one speech, and regardless of whether they were mom bloggers or executives in the audience, that's what they were going to get. And I hated sitting through those. So now that I get to go do it at other companies, I try to make it personal to where they are and go, okay, you're in the healthcare industry. Here's this challenge with the FDA you're going through. Or you're at Microsoft and you're in the middle of Silicon Valley and people are changing their jobs quickly. Let's talk about that. You're a boomer company trying to work with millennials and you're missing each other. Let's talk about that. So I try to make it personal and I try to make it fun because I've sat in that chair and I hate boring speakers.
Now, you mentioned you talk to millennials. What do you say to boomers?
Well, to boomers, I say admit that things always change. Like, sometimes a boomer forgets that they used to be the millennial. They used to be the one entering the workforce. And then I also tell them, I'll say things like, because when I talk to a millennial audience, I'll say, you got to have somebody 10 years ahead of you that can tell you where the potholes are. You've got to have a mentor. To boomers, I'll say, you better know somebody 10 years behind you or 20 years behind you. Because the challenge for me, I'm 40, so I'm Gen X, but the challenge is that I have to unlearn the old way to do the new way. The millennial doesn't have to unlearn the old way. They grew up in a world where all information is instant. Everything is available, and they see things that I'm just not going to see. So if you're a boomer, you better recognize the talent, the ability, what the millennial generation offers, and plug into that. So I try to get them to understand it's a two-way street, that it's not about how do we fix the millennials, it's about how do we work together on the same kind of problems we're going to face, and what does it really look like. And I try to get boomers not to believe the hype, because the headlines say, millennials are entitled, they're lazy, here's the problem. And there's always elements about that with any generation. So I try to help them understand, here's how the value system has changed. 45% of millennials care more about workplace flexibility than they do salary. So now that you know that information, that gives you a chance to go, okay, so that's why the work from home thing matters. To a millennial, I get to go, hey, don't demand to work from home on your second day of work. You haven't earned anything at that company. You have no equity. Like, don't walk in and go, I'm so mad I've been here for 48 hours and they didn't offer me the chance to work from home. They don't know you. Now, to the boomer, though, I can say, if the only reason you're not letting them work from home is that then you're worried they'll slack off, you should go ahead and fire them right now. If the only thing that makes your employee good is the geography of your building, you have a terrible employee. If the minute they get outside these four walls, they become a terrible loser employee, you hired the wrong person. You should be able to hire people that, whether they're in a coffee shop or in your office, they're able to do good work. So those are some of the things I say.